Even if everything seems dark and seems black, we can be hopeful. And that hope allows the light of love to enter our hearts. Our minds are illuminated, and we become more focused on what we can do to help those around us. And in doing so, the hurt we feel won't hurt as much. The pains, both physical, emotional, mental, financial, spiritual, that we are experiencing won't seem as difficult, because we will start to see how one kind deed, one kind word can help strengthen those around us. And in doing so, it strengthens us. Welcome to Music, Motivation, and More, the Positivity Podcast. I am your host, Jerald Simon. Every weekly podcast is sponsored by various businesses, groups, associations, and organizations. Today's podcast has been sponsored by the Cool Songs Club. Today's podcast is titled, "'Tis the Season." It's the month of December, and generally, worldwide, the month of December is a month where most people celebrate being with families. Some celebrate and think of Christmas. Others celebrate Hanukkah. There are many different occasions where the families think of coming together. So in this podcast, I'd like to talk about how today, this week, this month, this year, we can always have the idea of how this is the season. 'Tis the season. What kind of season is it? 'Tis the season for gratitude. 'Tis the season for giving, for loving, for serving, for helping. 'Tis the season for repentance, for forgiveness, for acceptance, for growth, for strength, for overcoming. 'Tis the season to improve, to be better, to help those around us improve and be better. What kind of season do you hope to have this season? What kind of season will you share or spread to those around you? How will you spread or share happiness, hopefulness, helpfulness? See, humanity hungers for hope. And we often think about how this is the season of good hope, of charity, of kindness. Now, we should be doing those things every day. We should be more minded and focusing more on serving others every day, every week, every month, every year, not just during the month of December. But during the month of December, we often, generally, tend to be a little more optimistic, a little more open to how we can help those around us. I know that some December months can be difficult and trying. There are so many families that struggle, either financially, or they struggle with the loss of a loved one. They deal with heartache, fears, pains, sorrows. During this month, we can find the best in humanity, but there are those who may be remembering loved ones who passed away, and this is their first December without them. There may be neighbors beside us who are dealing with health issues. They may be dealing with loneliness. They may have heartache. They may be experiencing their own personal problems and pitfalls, and this month to them does not seem happy. It does not seem hopeful. But we can always be helpful. And if we are experiencing those difficult times, if we are remembering loved ones we have lost, we can surround ourselves with the hope of good times yet to come. Dark and seems black, we can be hopeful, and that hope allows the light of love to enter our hearts. Our minds are illuminated, and we become more focused on what we can do to help those around us. And in doing so, the hurt we feel won't hurt as much. The pains, both physical, emotional, mental, financial, spiritual, that we are experiencing won't seem as difficult, because we will start to see how one kind deed, one kind word can help strengthen those around us. And in doing so, it strengthens us. For the positive perceptions portion of this podcast, I would like to read on page 26 from my book, Perceptions, Parables, and Pointers, a little paragraph about making a difference. This is what it says. Make a difference in someone's life today. It could be on a grand scale, such as giving sums of money to a neighbor, friend, family member, or even a stranger who needs help or assistance. It could be as simple as smiling at a stranger and saying a friendly hello. Everything you do has a ripple effect on yourself, your family, your neighbors, the community, and even the nation and the world. The chain reaction that can happen when you set out to do good is infinite. What can you give, share, and provide to and for others? Start today. Begin where you are. Make things happen. Be the difference in someone's life. Now, simple as that may be, and simple as that may sound, it can take a lot of effort on our part to extend ourselves to those around us. First and foremost, we need to notice what is happening. We need to think about what we can personally do to help our neighbors. Maybe we can shovel the sidewalk or shovel the driveway of 1, 2, 3, or all of our neighbors on our street. Maybe we can take a plate of cookies over to a family. Or if we see that someone is struggling financially, maybe we can be a secret Santa. Maybe we can be the means of helping those around us who feel helpless. If there are those around us who feel hopeless, maybe we can talk with them. You know, it doesn't take much. 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of our time. We can make a phone call. We can send a text message. We can actually go over and visit them, sit down on the couch next to them, find out how their day is going, what they are doing, what they are learning. We can focus on them, their needs, their wants. As we do so, our eyes will be opened, and we will begin to see that this is the season. 'Tis the season of good friends, of service, of sacrifice, of helping, of lifting, of being kind to one another. 'Tis the season for speaking well of our friends, our family, our enemies, forgiving. 'Tis the season for becoming the individuals that we would like to become. I'd like to read a story I wrote, and this is from my book, Perceptions, Parables, and Pointers again. The story is titled, I'd Be Delighted, and it's actually dedicated to my father, Jerry F. Simon, and it's inspired by a true story. Almost 2 true stories that were put together. Let me tell you the backstory behind this. My father, Jerry Simon, grew up in Wisconsin on a farm. And all of the children would work in the farm. And they had a lot of work to do, day in and day out. And he and the neighborhood boys loved to play baseball. but he knew he had to finish his work before he could go play. Well, he would share this story with me and with my siblings as we were growing up, because I grew up in Pleasant View, Utah, and if you've ever lived in Pleasant View, you know that the terrain, the landscape, your yard is full of rocks. There are rocks everywhere. And every week, as children, we were given the assignment to go out where the garden was, or to go out where we had worked on some land or tilled some grass up, and we were asked to take a bucket or a pail and fill it full of rocks. And we always had enough rocks that we could have one bucket after another. And so I'd like to read this, and you can think of this as a combination of those two experiences. The experience I had as a child, having to pick up a lot of rocks, and then the experiences my father had on the farm, wanting to play baseball with the friends. This is titled, I'd Be Delighted, dedicated to my father, Jerry Simon. Jerry liked to play baseball with the neighborhood boys, but Mom said there was work to be done on the farm. Jerry wanted to play, but decided to do what Mom told him. Mom always said, work is good for you, and Dad always said, nothing ever happens without work. So Jerry went to work. The family was going to pick corn. The field was large and the rows never seemed to end. Everyone in the family was given their own row. Everyone, that is, except Jerry. Jerry, I have something special in mind for you. I want you to fill this pail full of rocks, said Dad. Do I have to, Dad? It's not as fun as picking corn. Jerry, sometimes work isn't always fun to do, but you can always have fun doing it. What do you mean? Jerry asked. Anytime anyone asks me to do something, I say, I'd be delighted. It makes me feel good because then I don't see it as work, Dad said. I'm just helping people, Jerry. Jerry, just say, I'd be delighted, and you'll feel better. Jerry, I promise you will. Jerry stood in front of a pile of rocks and looked down at his pail. Then Jerry whispered, I'd be delighted, and picked up a rock. He felt different when he said the words. It worked, thought Jerry to himself, and then he picked up another rock. Dad, I felt something when I picked up the rock. I've never felt it before. What was it? Jerry shouted at his dad, who was picking corn. You probably felt good, even though you're doing something that isn't very fun, Jerry. Whenever you say, I'd be delighted, everything seems easier and the day goes by quicker than before. You're having fun working and you never thought you could, did you, Jerry? Jerry didn't answer his dad. Jerry was busy looking at his pail and the pile of rocks. He smiled and picked up another rock and put it in his pail. Once again he whispered, I'd be delighted. And he felt so good. Whenever anyone asks me to help around the house, I'm going to say this special phrase, I'd be delighted, and help them. From then on, Jerry was always helpful and always felt good doing work around the house because he always remembered to say, I'd be delighted. And he always was delighted. Now, it's a simple story. In the community in Wisconsin where my father grew up, they had a wonderful, wonderful community, a very God-fearing Catholic community, and they had an organization where they would all meet together. And one of the phrases that they taught the children was to say, I'd be delighted. That if asked to do something from an adult, the children could say, I'd be delighted. Now, saying that phrase, I'd be delighted, it can change your perspective. Now, does that mean instantly the work you are about to do is going to become wonderful, amazing, easy? No. By saying the words, I'd be delighted, does that mean you are going to enjoy what you do? No. Does it mean that you are going to be happy? You are doing what you are doing? No. You see, I'd be delighted is a phrase that changes us internally, so then our perspective externally can change. We can refocus our efforts on everything we do. Once we change our attitude, then we can begin the process of being grateful for what we do have, not what we lack or want, but being grateful for what we have experienced, what we have learned. It's that attitude of gratitude. 'Tis the season for an attitude of gratitude. 'Tis the season to help and serve those around us. We can say to ourselves, I'd be delighted to serve, to help, to lift, to teach, to encourage. It may be a sacrifice on our part. It may be something we don't enjoy doing, and we may downright despise doing whatever it is we have been asked to do. But if we change our attitude about it, then we can change our perspective. And the possibility and the outcome of what we hope to achieve will change. See, if we look at something and we see it only for what it can give us, what happens is we become so focused on what everyone around is doing that affects us. How they said something or what they said and how it impacted me. It's a very inward approach. It's a very selfish approach, because then we become more and more focused on ourselves. How an ad we saw affected us. We get riled up, we get angry, we get upset, or someone made a comment about a product we produced. Now, it's their opinion. They are entitled to that opinion, just as we are entitled to our opinion. But we can do so much good to those around us if we change our attitude, which is why I read that story about saying that magical phrase, I'd be delighted. For the Motivation in a Minute portion of this podcast, I would like to read from page 188, a quote by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. This is what it says. Treat a man as he appears to be, and you make him worse. But treat a man as if he were what he potentially could be, and you make him what he should be. If you think about it, how we treat people, what we do, what we say, that has an impact on how people view themselves, what they think about the world around them. And it happens to each of us, what people say to us, what people do. Now we must learn how to focus our thoughts and our words on helping those around us. I've talked before about how anyone can tear down, and it takes a craftsman or a skilled worker to build up. But if we treat someone as intelligent, they will be intelligent. If we treat someone as if they are creative, as if they are talented, they will be creative, they will be talented. They may not see the vision yet. They may not be able to see themselves as what they hope or want to be. But that does not mean we limit our scope, because we can still see the good within them. We can see their potential, the possibility, and we can help bring that out. in that individual. For the Music Within portion of this podcast, I would like to have us listen to 2 different Christmas arrangements I have done. The first is going to be Bringing Joy to the World. This is my rendition or arrangement of Joy to the World. And you can listen to this on Spotify, Pandora, iTunes, Amazon, any of the streaming sites. But what I would like to do is have you listen to this and think about how it has a rhythmic pulse. This is not your traditional Joy to the World. I will say that up front. We have guitars, we have drums, we have electric bass, we have synth keyboards, we have strings. It has kind of a pop, rock, techno-pop, film score, soundtrack-like feeling and quality about it. And then we have a key change and it rises up. So I'd like to have you listen to, first, Bringing Joy to the World, and then after that, we are going to listen to Angels We Have Heard on High. So this is Bringing Joy to the World. So that was Bringing Joy to the World. Now I would like to have us listen to Angels We Have Heard on High. And this is my rendition or arrangement of Angels We Have Heard on High. It's a very jazzy, popish sound. We have guitars, acoustic guitars, electric guitars. My good friend Michael Gibbons is playing all the guitar parts. His father, Barry Gibbons, is playing the electric bass part. We have drums, keyboard, synth sounds, and of course, I'm playing the piano. But listen to Angels We Have Heard on High and just see if you can feel a fun, laid-back Christmas, almost a nostalgic-like feeling about Christmas. So that was Angels We Have Heard on High. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, you can listen to any of my music on Spotify, Pandora, iTunes, Amazon, any of the streaming sites out there. I have sheet music for most everything. In the information section of this podcast, I will actually have a link where you can purchase Bringing Joy to the World, the piano sheet music, and you can play along with the minus tracks and other Christmas books that I've come out with as well. For the Poetry That Motivates section of this podcast, I would like to read one of the poems I have written from my book, The As If Principle, Motivational Poetry. Let me read this to you. This is on page 8 of the book. It is titled, If Only. If only men would humbly admit the faults and wrongs they've done. If only children remained innocent, uncorrupted, as oft they become. If only lovers remained in love, never quarreled, bickered, or fought. If only strangers wouldn't feel estranged, unwanted, unloved, and unsought. If only women were treated as women, as angels sweet and divine. If only people would treat each other with that same thought in mind. If only there were no poverty, no homeless or hungry or lost. If only we helped each other out, regardless of what the cost. If only we paid more attention to the problems and needs that abound. If only we cared more for others, how much love in our lives could be found. If only we wept more often and let our souls sing out. If only we laughed out loud now and then and befriended and served our fellow men. Now, the poem is titled If Only. And most of the lines begin with If Only. We started this podcast talking about how this is the season. 'Tis the season. For what? And I mentioned a few things. For love, forgiveness, for giving, for serving, for living, for learning, for helping. 'Tis the season. And here in this poem, I say if only men would humbly admit the faults and wrongs they've done. Well, that takes acceptance. That takes admitting that we've made a mistake. I think sometimes women can be better at this than men. If as men we can say, I'm sorry. If we can apologize. If we can ask for forgiveness. If we can admit we don't know everything. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. We need to live with those mistakes. We need to learn from those mistakes. We need to grow. Then it says, if only children remained innocent, uncorrupted as oft they become. Sadly, children are innocent, and then they lose that innocence. Now, we can help them regain that innocence by thinking about how everyone around, every stranger we meet, every neighbor we have, our family members, every single person needs love. They need acceptance. They need help. They need our prayers. They need our strength. We can be a helping hand to everyone. Then it says, if only lovers remained in love, never quarreled, bickered, or fought. Wouldn't that be an amazing world? If no one ever fought, if no one ever had an argument or yelled at one another. Now, we can disagree. I'm not saying we should not have our own interests or our own opinions. That would not be a good world if everyone agreed on everything or if everyone enjoyed the exact same thing. We all have differences. We should accept and celebrate those differences. But that does not mean that we must become mean in the process, or belittle, or condemn, or rebuke, or bicker, or quarrel, or fight. That should never happen. And then it says, if only strangers wouldn't feel estranged, unwanted, unloved, and unsought. Can you imagine if every single person in this world felt wanted, loved, sought after, accepted, if they believed they could achieve anything they put their mind to? Can you imagine if every person felt good about themselves? If they felt as if they belonged? What kind of a world would we live in? And then it says, if only women were treated as women, as angels sweet and divine. For me, nothing hurts me more than to see a man, any man, mistreat a woman. Whether it is physical abuse, whether it is verbal abuse, spiritual abuse, emotional abuse, anything done to make anyone feel less than they are, to feel as if they are unworthy, to feel as if they are unacceptable, to feel as if they are undeserving. That should not happen. It should not be done, because no one should ever exalt themselves over another. We are all brothers and sisters, if you want to think about it in those terms. We are family. We are friends. Yes, we have different strengths. Yes, we have different weaknesses. Yes, we have different interests, ideas, hobbies, talents. But everyone is growing. Everyone is learning. Everyone is improving. And no one is better than anyone else. It says, if only people would treat each other with that same thought in mind. If only there were no poverty, no homeless or hungry or lost. I lived in Brazil for 2 years, and it was an eye-opening and shocking experience to go from a first world country, from America, to a third world country. Some of the areas I went to in Brazil were unbelievable. The poverty. People had nothing. And of course, then you have health problems because they can't afford to go to a doctor. There are no doctors in the area. It was a very eye-opening and humbling experience for me personally to see. If only we helped each other out regardless of what the cost. If only we paid more attention to the problems and needs that abound. If only we cared more for others, how much love in our lives could be found. If only we wept more often and let our souls sing out. If only we laughed out loud now and then and befriended and served our fellow men. That is my hope. What type of season is this? What type of season do we want today, this week, this month, this year? We need to have a season. We need to have a season of giving. We need to have a season of service. We need to have a season of love, of listening, of learning. We need to have a season where everyone tries just a little bit more than they are currently to be more dedicated to doing what they know they should do to be better, to help those around them. We have an opportunity every day to see what good we can do and do it. We can look around. We can find the needs that need to be filled. And we can say, I'd be delighted to do it. It doesn't take much. We don't have to give all of our time and all of our resources. We don't have to give all of our money. You can invest just a few minutes per day in sitting down with your children, showing them kindness. As a father, can you show your children how a man should treat a woman by the way the father, the husband, treats his wife? The same thing can be said about a wife. Can a wife, a mother, show her children, both her sons and daughters, how women should treat men? We should not ridicule. We should not mock. We should not make fun of. We should not scream at, yell at, curse. And that goes for men and women. If men treated every woman truly as if they were a princess, as if they were of divine royalty, nobility, if they treated them as if they were of noble birth, if they were gentlemen, if they showed chivalry, respect, appreciation, love, if men would do that and help women, and if women in turn would show men how much they loved them, how much they appreciated them, how grateful they are, we would not have problems in the home. We would not have as much heartache and pain as we experience, as we've seen. We can help, we can serve, we can give, we can do so much more than we are doing. And it is my hope that each day as we arise, we can think about what we are going to do today. And that sentence from my poem, If Only. If only. And then think about, what do you want, if only? And then, what do you need to do? And what do we all need to do to make that happen? If only. It's a powerful phrase. But if we will remember that phrase combined with I'd be delighted. I'd be delighted to serve. I'd be delighted to be respectful. I'd be delighted to help my neighbors. I'd be delighted to serve my spouse. I'd be delighted to do what I need to do to be the very best I can be. So that is my hope with this podcast today. Every day, see what good you can do with that day and do it. It doesn't take much. But find a need and fill it. See what you can do today to make a difference in someone else's life. And that, in turn, will make a difference in your life. I promise you it will. Every day, say that phrase, I'd be delighted. Whatever challenge comes your way, whatever struggle, whatever trial, whatever opposition you are facing, find the good. Look for it. Learn from it. And you will grow to love everyone. And you will learn from everyone. So that is my hope. Keep smiling. Keep doing your best. Smile all the while and have fun every day. Learn and grow and do and be your best. And as you do, you will see a change in how you think, how you speak, how you treat others. And you'll see a big change in your life. In the life of your spouse, your children. Things will start to dramatically change around you. So be that change that you hope to see. Thanks again for listening. Have a great week. Until next time, do your best. That's all you can ask from anyone. See you guys. Thanks for listening. Bye. Subscribe to Music, Motivation, and More, the Positivity Podcast with Jerald Simon, to receive updates about each new weekly podcast. Every Monday, a new podcast is released to help motivate and inspire individuals to learn, to grow, to do, to be, and become the very best they can become. These are all motivational messages that inspire men and women of all ages to do and be their best, to set goals, to work on improving who they are and who they would like to become. Thank you again for listening. Connect with us on social media to become part of the conversation as we all work together to motivate each other to do and be our best. Thanks for listening to Music, Motivation, and More the Positivity Podcast. I am your host, Jerald Simon, and I am grateful to have you listen to this podcast. Every Monday we come out with a brand new podcast, and you can listen to it on any of the podcast streaming sites available. Just search for Music, Motivation, and More, the Positivity Podcast with Jerald Simon. Any of the music that I've shared in these podcasts, you can listen to. All of my music is available on Spotify, Pandora, iTunes, Amazon, and any streaming site available. You can also check out my music books at musicmotivation.com, and you can find my poetry, self-help, and motivational books available from Amazon.com, from Barnes & Noble, and from all different online shops and stores. If you have any questions about the music that I create through my company Music Motivation, you can learn more at musicmotivation.com, and you can visit my website coolsongsclub.com to learn more about how I create fun, cool piano music that helps motivate piano students to want to play the piano the fun way, especially during their teenage years. I'd love to have you check that out. But thank you again for listening. Please feel free to connect with me on any of the social media sites out there. You can watch my YouTube videos on youtube.com/Jerald Simon. You can connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and all social media sites at Jerald Simon. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, keep up the great work and have fun. See you guys. Bye.